So we should be going live momentarily. I will tell you when I see it go through. But usually when we start, it looks like we've started, but everyone who might be watching is watching an ad right now. So anything we say in the first couple of minutes, most people will not see. But yeah, so that's why I usually vamp a little bit at the beginning, but I think that's probably long enough. Hello, welcome. My name is Cariel, and this is NoPants Improv. And as you can see, there are lots of new people who have joined the ensemble this past week from all over the place.
Rounds. So this is just basically to get some simple items out.
Oh, my thing, somebody's unmuted. Mute your Twitch. Yeah, today we're not gonna actually be doing any improv. We're gonna be telling true stories from our lives to help you get to know us and to help us get to know each other, because some of us know each other already and some of us are brand new to each other. So we're just trying to get that ensemble vibe going with some stories. So who has a story that they'd like to tell from their lives? We're gonna just tell true stories from your life and whatever you're inspired to say. Raise your hand if you've got a story. Yeah, Dan, go for it.
I have a pretty light story to start things off. It's just kind of a fun, light story to kick things off here. So this is the story of the first time I ever did improv. So when I started doing improv, I actually was tricked into it. I had a friend who was a little more courageous than me, and he'd been taking some classes through Rapid Fire Theater here in Edmonton. And he was telling me how cool it was, how fun it was. It was really cool to get out there and do improv and stuff. And I'm just like, nah, maybe I could watch it, but I don't think I could do anything like that. That's crazy, man. Making stuff up the top of your head. Not for me, not interested, hard pass. So he's like, okay, that's fair enough. Couple days go by. He says, Dan, I've got tickets to an improv show. I'd love you to come and watch it. It's going to be a great time. You just get to sit back and enjoy some made up stuff without any kind of pressure or any weirdness like that. And I'm like, okay, cool. I can kick back. I can watch some improv. That sounds fun. Sounds like a good time. So we go to this location and I'm like, okay, this doesn't really seem like a theater, but it's fine. It could be just a small little underground thing, could be an off Broadway sort of thing, So, okay, we go in. And there's a lot of people there and they're kind of standing around in a circle, kind of seem to be milling about, knowing each other. And I'm just like, okay, that's the performers. That's not a problem. There's some seats in here. I mean, none of them are set up as an audience, but it's fine. So I go and I sit away from everyone else, assuming I'm going to be watching this performance. And suddenly an improv workshop breaks out. So I'm sitting there kind of watching it and everybody's kind of like looking at me like, what's this weird guy doing here? What's he doing just sitting off to the side? So eventually I was too embarrassed to admit that I was there just to watch improv. So I jumped in and joined in. And ever since then, I've been doing it every day. So don't get tricked into doing improv. Just go do it yourself, okay? You can get addicted on your own. You don't need somebody to addict you.
That's awesome. Sweet.
Was your friend who invited you there at the workshop?
Yeah, he was there at the workshop. Yes, he's actually the guy that he's my improv partner now. So like we do all of our things together. So yeah,
that's so cool. So thanks for doing the opening story. Now what I'd like to do, we're gonna hear some more stories, but I'd like to actually just have everyone introduce themselves. I probably should have done that before the first story, but it didn't occur to me until we already launched into stories. So we're just going to go around and I'm just going to call your name and you're going to tell us tell the audience a little blurb about yourself. So we'll start with John Wynne.
Hi, I'm John. I'm based in Washington, D.C. My home theater is Washington Improv Theater, where I work full-time running their corporate training program. And I also perform and teach there. And I perform with the Baltimore Improv Group and Maryland Improv Collective as well. And I have an adorable dog named Eli that I am obsessed with.
That was my old dog's name. I love that name for a dog. I love that name in general. Neil.
Hey, I'm Neil. I live now in Rhode Island, USA, but if you're from Rhode Island, I don't sound like you. So there it is. I'm really originally from the Midwest. My home theater company is the Contemporary Theater Company in Wakefield. I have a beautiful cat named Marina who hates being picked up, so you may never see her on the screen. And yeah, it's great to see you.
Awesome. Mad Mike.
Hello there, my name's Mike, originally from the UK, now living in sunny Spain, Barcelona. Co-founder of a little group called Watch This Space, been running now for 3 years. I have got pets, but they're wild ones, they're geckos. So I'm going to have trouble at the end of the shows catching them and showing them to you. But hey, we'll give it a go.
I muted myself because I was typing. Chris.
Hey, I'm Chris. I'm from Norwich in the UK. If you want to know where Norwich is, so look at a map of the UK and it sort of looks like a man riding a pig, and Norwich is on the pig's butt. That's where I am. I have a little improv company called Dogface Improv. We've been going for about 4 years. I'm a bit of a geek. I have been to Chicago to do the IO intensive. I love Chicago so much. I could so easily live in Chicago. Haven't been to Austin, but it's very much on the list. And I've trained with UCB people and lots of, I'm a real mishmash of styles and really excited to be here.
Awesome. Ginny.
Hi, my name's Ginny. I live in New York City in Brooklyn. My home theater is the Upright Citizens Brigade. I've been doing improv for like 7 years and some change. I have a dog, but she doesn't live with me, so she won't be making, actually that's a lie. I was going to say she won't be making an appearance, but I am going to visit my parents in a couple weeks and she'll be there. So a reason to tune back in.
Awesome. Allie.
What's up? I'm Allie from Austin. I have trained at the Hideout Theater. I also have dogs named Kovu and Pop Tart. I will bring Pop Tart in because she's a puppy, and so people like to see the puppy more, as it turns out. So she'll be the one you see at the end of the show.
Who would have thunk it? People like puppies more than dogs.
I know.
Dan, oh yeah, Dan. We already heard your story, but we didn't get you actually properly introduced to you.
Hey everyone, my name's Dan. I'm from Edmonton, Alberta in Canada. I live near the mountains and also on the prairies at the same time, which is pretty cool. In terms of improv, I've been improvising for about 9 years here in Alberta, and I currently work out of my own place called goodimprov.com. So we do a lot of live streaming stuff and a lot of just sketch comedy, a lot of fun. Come check that out. And check this out too, obviously. But you're probably already checking this out. So fun fact people might not know about me. I was actually tricked into doing improv my first time I did it.
Tanya.
Hello, my name is Tanya. I'm from Belgium. We speak French, Dutch, and German in our little country. And I live in Antwerp in the north. We think it's a town, but it's more a village where I live. I play improv with the Belgium Improvisation League. And yeah, I like to take new adventures. And I hope my friend from Spain, Hans, I hope you're watching. And voila, that's all.
Sweet. Kristen.
I'm Kristen. I live in Austin now, but I'm a lifelong transient person. I grew up in Los Angeles, and my parents sent me to boarding school in New England. Also lived in Chicago, San Francisco, New York City, Mexico City, Colorado, and Connecticut. I have 2 cats and a tortoise, and probably the tortoise is the most photogenic, so I'll try and bring him back sometime.
Cool. Nicole.
Hi, I'm Nicole. This little, so many squares. I live in Chicago, although I am originally from LA like Kristen, and I have a Chihuahua named Hercules, and depending on who else is staying here at any given time, there are 2 or 3 other fun little critters that may make guest appearances. And I'm just really happy to be here with everybody, giving something fun and uplifting to the world these days, and making new friends.
Awesome. Anne.
Hi, guys. I was born and raised in Omaha, Nebraska, and quickly wanted a life outside of Nebraska. So I moved to Chicago, or I started improvising at DePaul, then chased down every improv program that I could find to train at. I did Second City and IO and some shows at Annoyance. And then 3 years ago, I moved here and I've been doing some stuff at the Hideout, which has been really, really fun. I'm very obsessed with my dog Walter. You'll see him frequently, probably at the beginning, during, and at the end of shows if I can help it. And I recently started a comedy Instagram page for a creepy doll that my best friend and I have, because all things comedy are fun.
Bree.
Hey, I'm Bree. I'm in Austin. I have been doing improv at the Hideout for about a year and a half. I'm originally actually from Germany, born and raised, but I have lived in Austin like the vast majority of my life now because I'm old. And this is my dog, Captain Picard. He is my only child, and I will never have another. The end.
Nice. Stacy.
Hey, I'm Stacy from Austin. Been doing improv for about a year and a half. Props to the Hideout. I have a cute, little, adorable, sweet, potted plant that doesn't have a name. Yes, I'm allergic to pets, which is kind of sad, but I have a lot of plants, so not quite the same.
Sweet. MJ.
Hi, I'm MJ. I live in Los Angeles. I was born in Seoul, Korea, raised in Toronto, Canada. Go Canucks. I have a cat, Kitty, who we love. She's 20, but she still acts like a kitty. I've been trained at Improv Theater, Groundlings, and UCB, and I'm really excited to be part of NoPants.
Brandon.
Hello, I'm Brandon. I'm originally from...
You're really quiet, Brandon.
Oh, God damn it.
There you go.
Hi, I'm Brandon, and I'm originally from West Texas, Midland, Texas. I live in Austin now. I've been doing improv since 2011. I came up with Carrie L. I spent a year in Chicago I tried to do everything I could in a year because it was too cold. And then I came back. I'm in a couple of troupes. I'm in a duo called Ron Don Martelli with my friend Ron Morelli. I'm also in a silent troupe called Golden that I've been in for the past few years now. We do all silent improv. We do it's basically like silent movies, but with like 10 Mr. Beans. Allie has become a part of that recently. We're happy to have her. And I'm happy to be in a group cast by Carrie L because we stepped in the same class the very first day together, and it was life-changing. Look at us now.
Look at us now.
Stuck in our homes.
All right, Jennifer, I saw you pop on. If you want to pop in, let's have you introduce yourself real quick.
Hi, I'm sorry I'm late. I'm trying to get Zoom going here. There, that's nice. Jennifer or Jenny or Jen, and I'm an expert at Zoom and nothing else. What am I saying? I'm saying that I live in Oakland, California, and I do improv with Improv Marin, and I'm excited to be here.
Awesome. And last but not least, Nick.
Hey, I'm Nick. I was born in Houston, grew up on the U.S. East Coast, and then recently I've moved back to Texas, where the weather is so much better than either the East Coast or the Chicago area, which is where I went to school. And I've been doing improv for also about a year and a half, mostly at the Hideout here in Austin. And yeah, I'm just super excited to play with this huge variety of people.
Awesome. So if you're just tuning in, we're just getting to know everyone in this beautiful, huge cast. And we're just telling true stories from our lives. But if you're watching and you have any questions for any of us or want to just wave to any of us or anything like that, feel free to type it in chat. And I think Anne has a story for us that she's going to tell, a true story from her life.
I do. And as promised, okay, you need a visual before I start the story. And here's the visual. The story is not actually about this dog, Walter, but I'm from a family who has loved Shih Tzus. So my whole life, we had a Shih Tzu named Snickers when I was, I think, in 6th grade. I remember like getting the paper, the Omaha World Herald, every day. And because my mom's like, if you want a dog, you're going to have to take care of it and you have to find it and pay for it and blah, blah, blah. I'm like, oh, mark my words, Mary Dowd, I will do that. And so I found the paper where it's like the pets for sale. And I found a couple litters of Shih Tzu. So I circled them. I'm like, oh, we have to go get this one. I'm like, yes. So we went and we found this little Snickers, and she was just the joy, the light of our life, except she used to run out, like dig and like get out of the backyard pretty frequently. So it was like, oh man, where'd Snickers go? Okay, whatever. We're worried, but she always came back. So there was one day where I was like probably 14, like it was freshman year in high school. So like when I was home, all I wanted to do was sleep and not talk to my parents. And so I was like laying in bed, and in walks my mom with this Shih Tzu. She's like, guess who got out of the backyard? And I look up, I'm like, what? My mom has this Shih Tzu, and I look down at my legs, like sleeping with me is Snickers. And I was like, I'm like, how much did I smoke before I got home? I'm like, am I like freaking out? Like, how are there 2 Snickers? And she looked at my bed. She's like, who is this? Who is this? And she looked at this dog. Some little neighbor girl had come to our door and was like, here, Mrs. Dowd, here's your dog. And she's like, thanks. And she didn't even like question the fact that this may or may not have been Snickers. She just took him in. And I was like, well, we now have to go find who the real owner of this imposter Snickers was. But it was so funny because it was like time went backwards, like both of us trying to figure out, are there actually 2 dogs here? Like, which one is the real Snickers? What is happening here? It was a fun day.
That sounds awesome. So Cagney had an internet cutout, but when we were doing intros, Cagney, will you please introduce yourself, and then we'll have Neil tell a story.
Yes, sorry about that. My name's Cagney. I live in Seattle, but I'm currently in Texas doing a little family trip. I have 2 dogs. Together they have 6 nostrils. The one with 4 nostrils was just sick during my internet outage, so that's why it was a little extended. But yeah, that's me.
They have 4 nostrils? That's trippy.
Yeah, his something happened to him when he was a baby, like got attacked, and so he has inside nostrils also, like he snorts when he breathes.
Awesome. All right, Neil from Rhode Island, let's hear a story from you.
Yeah, sure. I'll tell a story. It's a story about love because it was a theme that people were talking about. So I'm married. Yay. And this is actually the 2nd time that I've been married. And in the past, I had worked in the wedding industry too. So the 2nd time that I got married, I sort of stood back and was like, whatever you want to have happen is fine. Because like, hey, look, I've been to 1 million weddings. So my wife is an English teacher. She loves reading. We actually got married at the Providence Public Library. And it's this beautiful, like old Gothic library that looks like it should be in a movie somewhere. And it has this big stone staircase that goes up to this sort of imposing marble facade that's very beautiful. But Providence is kind of like a sad, depressed city a lot of the time. It's on an upswing, but like there's times when it's not so great. And the library is in one of those like not so great neighborhoods. We're standing out front and we're taking the wedding photographs that everybody does, like, I love you. And our wedding photographer is a couple steps down the stairs, a little distance from us, maybe about 10 or 15 feet. And then about that many feet down is the street level. And they're just people walking by, looking at us. And this man comes down the sidewalk, sees us, it's kind of scruffy and, not that nice. And he comes up the stairs like, oh, hey, you kids are getting married. That's really great. I wish you guys all the happiness in the world. Here, I want to give you guys a gift. Hold on. pulls something out of his pocket and slides it under the photographer's camera equipment. And we're all kind of like, all right, thanks, stranger. And the photographer is like kind of watching him like, don't steal my stuff. Strange, kind of scruffy looking guy. And she walks over to her camera, picks it up, and he had left $100 bill there underneath her camera stuff. It was amazing. It's a real $100 bill. It wasn't counterfeit or anything. Just a total stranger giving total strangers wedding gifts. And he just faded off into the crowd. Never saw him again.
Aw, maybe he'll see this video one day.
Maybe.
Like it was
maybe.
me.
But it is a beautiful experience.
That sounds awesome. I think Chris had a story coming up.
Yeah. So, oh no, I've suddenly got a brain conflict that there's two stories competing. Which one's going to win? That one's going to win. So when Dan was talking about how he got into improv, how he was tricked into doing improv. It made me think about how I started doing improv. And I just moved to a new city called Brighton, a lovely city in England on the south coast. Like, quite a sort of fun city, bit of a party city, but really, really good improv scene. Some of my mates took classes. I saw their grad show and thought that looks amazing. I'll start doing it. And actually then it was great because one of the nice things was that I met a great bunch of people. So I found this really beautiful art form to start like being creative and expressing myself, but also I got a load of drinking buddies, which was really nice. And so one night really early on, maybe like a few classes in, we went out for a few drinks. We went back to my flat and we were sitting around having a drink. And one of them went to the bathroom and he said, oh, there's like a trapdoor. There's like a loft trapdoor in the top of your bathroom. I'm like, yeah, I moved in maybe 3-4 months ago. I've never looked up there. Should we see if there's anything up there? So we all went in the bathroom. I stood on the bath. There were 2 locks. I undid the locks, the latches, lifted up the hatch, moved it over and looked up, and there was a beam of wood with my name written on it. It just said Chris and nothing else. And we all shat ourselves, and it was really freaky. I know it's like a common name, right? And so at some point, that bit of wood was for Chris. They wrote Chris on it. They took it, built a house. I don't know, but it freaked us out. Closed that, never opened it again. Lived there for another 2 years, never opened it again. Too freaky.
Do you, Chris, do you believe like in ghosts and the supernatural?
No, but you never quite know, do you? That's the thing, is we don't ultimately know. Nobody can say that they know. So my rational mind doesn't, but hey, the beam of wood spoke to me.
Yeah, love it. Let's see, we got MJ with a story.
Hi, so I have a 12-year-old daughter, and when I was 12, I remember I took a class in Dungeons and Dragons, and there was a teacher who kept on saying,
Wait, hold up. I have to follow up on this. A class in Dungeons and Dragons?
So I had played Dungeons and Dragons since I was 9 years old, and then with my friends, and then the school had said that it's evil, so we weren't allowed to play anymore. And my friend had everything. So then when I was 12, there in Toronto, there used to be these classes called Saturday morning classes. I don't know if they exist anymore. And one of the classes was, and they realized that Dungeons and Dragons is not evil. It's actually very fun and creative. So they had these Saturday morning classes, and one of them was Dungeons and Dragons. And I wanted to play again because I just loved it so much from when I was 9 to 10. So then, so when I was 12, I took this class. I signed up for this class, D&D, right? Where some friends were also part of it, and I was really looking forward to it. And the weird thing is, okay, so I basically have the same body type. I haven't really changed since I was 12. And I remember this teacher, he kept on saying, you must be older, you look like you're 17. And I said, no, I'm really 12. And he said, well, I'm 21. And I remember being kind of like excited by the attention, but grossed out, because you're like, it's that funny age where you're definitely a child, and yet that there's some weird energy going around you, right? And I remember going on the bus ride with my friends afterwards going, I love this class. I really love the attention. And my friends, and thank goodness my friends were like, don't ever go back. And I think that's true. So now having a 12-year-old daughter, I kind of go, that was a little creepy, this 21-year-old teacher, like hitting on, like a 12-year-old kid, right? And I go, and thank goodness that hopefully it doesn't happen. But I see my 12-year-old daughter and I go, like, never. Like, if anyone goes near her, I am like, they're dead. That's my story. Okay.
That's awesome. I just think it's hilarious that there was a class to teach you how to play Dungeons and Dragons. That concept blew my mind. I think we had queued up next. I forget, we made an order of people who wanted to go next. Whoever was supposed to be next, go next.
I think it was me. Someone stop me if it's not me, interrupt me.
Sounds good. Go for it, Allie.
So I grew up in Lubbock, Texas, which is a college town. Because of that, there's a lot of student housing, and most people are not from Lubbock. They're just visiting or there for school. And I stopped going to college at 20, but I still lived in student housing with friends. And when I was 21, I lived in a 4-bedroom, 4-bath complex. And we each had our own individual leases, and that's important. And so that summer, everyone was going home for the summer, my 3 roommates. 2 of them were ending their leases in August and 1 was continuing through, but all 3 were like, we're gonna go home for the summer, leaving me alone in a 4-bed, 4-bath. So I'm like, rad. But they're all paying their rent and stuff still. And one night, it's when I first have the place alone, my friend and I are going to watch a movie at my place, and we're on the couch and we hear like just a slight little like scuffle in one of the rooms, we think. And I'm like, I'm paranoid. I've always been paranoid of someone being in my house. So I'm like, did you hear that? And my friend is like, I didn't hear anything, you're fine. So I'm like, okay. And we try to keep watching the movie. And then I swear I hear just like the tiniest knock. And it sounds like someone is there, but trying to be quiet. And again, she doesn't hear it. So I'm like, okay. And then a third one happens, just like a kind of another little like, and my dog perks up and growls. And she's like, no, okay, I hear that one. So I'm like, okay. So I like walk into our little hallway and I'm just like, hello? And nothing, I don't hear anything. So I kind of step a little further and I say, hello again, don't hear anything, but we're freaked out. So we go to her place for the rest of the night until my boyfriend at the time and his friend can get out of their movie. And at this point, it's like 1 a.m. by the time they get out. They go with me back to my place because I'm like, I can't stay there until we check it. I'm too scared. They're like, okay. And we end up, going in there and we're like, okay. And we kind of, we open my room, check it, and it's fine. We open my roommate's room to like the right of me, check it, and it's fine. And then we think we hear just like another little scuffle. And so I'm like, that's it. There's someone here. I'm getting a weapon. So I go into the kitchen and I get a butcher knife, which sounds extreme, but when you're, 21 years old and female, you're like, I gotta be safe. We check the 3rd roommate's room and there's nothing there. But then when we get to the 4th roommate's room, that's when we hear like another kind of tiny noise. And I'm like, I swear there's someone in here. So I knock, which is stupid. But again, I like knock on the door and nothing happens. So we're like, there's probably no one in it. Let's just get this over with. But it happens to be locked, which makes sense because that roommate actually did lock her door when she left. And so I shot her a text and was like, you locked your door when you left, right? And she's like, yeah, I did. Cool. So we're like, okay, we just have to bust it open. And then we just like 1, 2, 3, and we bust open the door. And this like gut wrenching scream from a woman is like screaming at us. And there's some random blonde girl on a random mattress in the middle of the room. And there's me standing in the door that I just busted open with a knife. And we both scream and we're both just like, who the fuck are you? And she's like, I live here. And I'm like, I live here. Long story short there, though, the apartment complex had snuck someone in one of my roommate's rooms because they knew they wouldn't be living there. So my roommate was paying rent and then they had this girl pay double rent and then they didn't tell me she was moving in. And she told the front office that I broke into her room with a knife in the middle of the night and that she no longer wanted to live there. And I said, that is true, but out of context. And that is my story.
Whoa.
You've told me that story before, but I couldn't remember the ending, so I was still on the edge of my seat.
been very bad for me because every time I think someone's in my house, I'm like, but one time someone was. So it's just not been good.
That's awesome. Mad Mike with a story.
I hope mine's slightly lighter. It's definitely shorter. We've got some animal lovers here, I see. I used to have two lovely cats, one called Ebony and the other called Tansy, a black one and a multicolored one. And as you know, with these kind of animals, they sometimes get fleas. So, you buy your flea spray and you do it. They don't like it. But it solves the problem. This one particular time, sprayed the cat, got the can out, sprayed them, they went berserk, up the walls, hissing at each other, ran around, couldn't work out what was going on. 2-3 days later, spotted some fleas on them. And I thought, this isn't working, that's not right. Got the can out, got the cats in, about to spray them, looked at the instructions on the can. I was about to spray them with cat repellent that you're supposed to use on furniture, not flea repellent. I'd got the wrong stuff. There we go. Sorry.
That's awesome. I forget who I said was next. I think Tanya.
Yeah, thanks. Well, the story Chris told reminded me of a strange story that happened in my life. I don't know if any of you went to Turkey, to Istanbul. I was there with a girlfriend and we walked around. We met some lovely boys who guided us. And one of them said, let's have a coffee together. We drank a coffee, and in the coffee in Turkey, they leave the coffee grounds, the grains. And he said, I can read in the coffee your future. I say, go ahead, do so. So he read, watch out for the horses. I looked around. Istanbul is full of cars, full of the subway, boats, but there are no horses in this town. So I said, yeah, right. So he said, I'm going to take you to an isle. We took a boat, we come to this isle, and there it was, a horse. He said, yeah, you can go on the horse if you want. I said, okay, why not? And 1 minute later, the horse, and I fell off the horse. And it came true, people.
Awesome.
Is it true or not? No, it's true.
I think Bree had a story.
Do, and all these other stories have made me think of like a million more, so I'm also torn, but I think I'll just tell my first story, which is that in like right after college, throughout like my early 20s, I had a roommate named Sarah Ann, and her parents were super religious, but not like in a creepy Southern way, but just really wanted to talk about how much Jesus loves you, like all the time. So Sarah Ann moved to Georgia after we stopped being roommates. And last summer, it's really hot in Texas during the summer, and I hate it very much, even though Nick thinks it's great. So like I just get stir crazy, and so I'm like, we're going to Target. We're gonna go to Target and make the rounds. So Captain Picard and I, we are at Target, just pushing the shopping cart around. Yes, I put my dog in the shopping cart at Target. And lo and behold, I see Sarah Ann's mom, Martha. And Martha is like this weird combination because in the 60s and 70s, she was a total hippie. And then she had a coming of Jesus, but she still looks like a total hippie. So I see her like in the distance, like sauntering toward me with like feathers in her hair and all kinds of shit. And, she's like, oh my God, look at you. You're so precious. And immediately starts telling me how much Jesus missed me. And then is like, who is this? Because she'd never met Captain Picard. And I tell her, this is my dog. And she just like is rubbing his face, and she's just like making all this eye contact with him. And she's like Bree, can I just say a prayer for your dog? Yes, of course, Martha. Yes, you can say a prayer for my dog. So she's like petting him and just so close to him and just telling him how it was less of a prayer and more of just her telling him how much he is just a gift to the world, which he is, and how much Jesus loves him and, you know, how loved he is. And Captain Picard, without missing a beat, just throws up all over her. Like there wasn't like even a pause. And it felt like maybe she exercised him or something. And she just kind of was like, okay, well, bye, and left. And I have not seen her since.
That's delightful. All right, John had a story.
So going way back to the beginning, Dan's story made me think of like on improv, there's when you start, it gets no less weird as you go on. Particularly when they're paid gigs, which are rare and weird beasts on it. So the weirdest paid improv gig I did, got a call from an AD, Prescott, who now runs an improv theater in Singapore. And he said, John, I've got a show that you can be in, but you should know it's really weird, which you just have to trust me. When Prescott says something's weird, it's like a whole, like another level of peculiar. So we had a show that was called Foreplay, that was actually part of a local group that did sex positive education, but then they wanted improvisers. You sort of hear stories about that, and then you'd get improv after to go. It was the idea to be comedy with sex positive messages and all cool. Well, this was for the Winter Fire Convention, which is it's a sex convention for lack of any way to describe it. So we go in, they check your ID, they've closed a whole hotel. Things are getting quirky already because people are having sex in the lobby, which was not shocking, but it's like every genre was there. So like there were furries with leather play and just somehow like in the same area. It just seems like the stream shouldn't cross on there. So that anyway, we go and we get to the room to perform and it's packed. And apparently it was the largest attended show there. Apparently people have been seeing people have sex all the time, but clothed people, that was new. And we were doing comedy and it's going really well. But then at one point, I remember that Prescott in the middle of the show is sort of looking over to the side and I'm trying to figure out why and what's going on. And it's because the people running the lights, which were actually just located to the side of the stage, were having sex during the show, right? It was very clear they were having sex to the show and having a good time of it by all accounts there. And the shocking thing about it was one, that no one in the audience seemed distracted by that. Like that's something they've seen the whole time, but like, no, that was not stealing focus from the show. And two, they were crushing it on the lights. Like we just asked for a wash right there, but they were dropping spotlights on us during and I've always like, whenever a tech booth I'm grateful for everyone who volunteers to do tech, but whenever things go really south, I'm like, I've watched people have good sex and like keep things together in a way better than that. So that there was all of that. And then the final thing going out as we were leaving, I remember that there was I was single and a young lady sort of gave me a look at the time. I'm like, oh, that's interesting. And then I noticed she was into what's known as pony play because there's a ponytail going out the back there. And I realized that I didn't know, like I wanted to say hello, but I didn't know if that would be offensive. Was the right answer hello or like I wanted to be respectful. I just didn't know. And then I realized like I might be over my head here. And that was my quirkiest improv show for settings of it.
I think a safe bet would have just been a cube of sugar on a flat palm and seen what she did, you know?
On the way out of the lobby, I passed, they had like the little sugar things. And there was a moment where I thought, I'm like, no, John, just keep moving. But the thought occurred. Yeah.
All right. Brandon has a story.
Yeah. I feel like it was around 2004-ish. I think whenever The Dark Knight came out. I remember that. It was like in theaters. It was fresh. I went with some friends to Vancouver and it was me and my friend Josh, who's a skateboarder. That's part of the reason we went up there is because Vancouver's a big skateboarding city, and we flew up there with some friends. They got through customs. We got pulled back for like an hour, maybe 2 hours. They asked me if I had if I had ever been arrested. This is my first time, or no, this wasn't my first time. This wasn't my first time out of the country, but it was my first time out of the country to a border country and not like overseas. And but they were like, "Have you ever been arrested?" And I was like, "No." I asked my friend if he has ever been arrested. No. And then so they're like, "Are you sure you've never been arrested?" I was like, "Yes, I'm pretty sure I've never been arrested." And then they went back. It was a man at first, and they went and got a woman. She came back, and she was like, "All right, I'm gonna ask you this one more time. Have you ever been arrested?" I was like, "No, I have not. I've never been arrested." And she kind of looked at me because she was expecting me to like finally break down and be like, "Yes, all right, finally." Like, God, I was arrested. I never was. She gave me the weirdest look. She held us up for like 2 hours, and then finally was like, "All right, I guess there's name mixes or whatever. Fine, here you go." And we got out. That was like my first 2 hours in Canada, in Vancouver. It had been raining all night or whatever, so we didn't really get to do anything when we got there. We stayed in a hotel. Me and my buddy were roomed up, my buddy Josh, and we ended up watching The Matrix, with like Neo, Trinity, Morpheus, all that stuff. And it continued raining. Then the next morning, it was like it was nice. It was like you could go walk out. So we're like, let's go walk. Let's find a cool place to eat. Let's go check it out. We walked around. We kind of went through like 3 different places. Then we finally went to this one place. We sat down. We ordered. We had a meal, and we were paying to get out. And the 2 friends we were with got up. They went outside before us, and me and my buddy Josh got up, and we turned to the right, and Carrie Ann Moss is coming out of the bathroom like holding a kid, like they just had to take him in there to get him to go do the business. And she like noticed we were like looking at her, and we're just because we'd seen her like maybe 15 less hours ago, just watching the movie, and we were both just like staring at her, and she was like, "Hi," like, "Hey," and she walked off, and we're like, "Oh my God, that's fucking Trinity, dude. We just saw her. We didn't even say anything." And he's like, "Yeah, I know." And so we like, all right, we gotta go say sorry, we stalled. We just saw The Matrix like last night. We ran outside. We didn't see her anywhere, but like there was like a payphone thing, and like the handset was just like hanging there. And I was like, Is it real?
That's awesome, Brandon. I think there's a Matrix sequel that's supposed to be coming out, right?
Yeah, I believe so. I think there's not even like a reboot. It's like The Matrix 4, Keanu's back, Trinity's back, but there's also new people. So it's like, I feel like they're about to Star Wars it real hard.
It'll probably be years before we actually get to see it though, because, stuff. All right, who's next? Who has this next story? I forget who I said.
I think I'm up next.
Awesome, go for it.
I can go. So I just moved into college, and it was like still those early days where I'm still getting to know people. So like a small group of people that I would hang out with fairly regularly. Me and my roommate, a couple other guys from down the hall. We would just do random stuff. We'd have like a movie night where we'd order the Chicago deep dish pizza, which is good. If you don't like it, you're wrong. And we just watched terrible movies like we watched Birdemic, The Room. It was a bad movie night. And I think one of the things that brought us all together is that we all were mutual enemies with this other guy on our floor, because this other guy was a whistler. And you probably can't imagine this unless you've known a whistler this bad, but he would walk down the hall at 12 p.m., midnight to like 1 or 3 in the morning. I caught him doing this at all these times, whistling so damn loud that even with earplugs, which I ordered off Amazon specifically because of him, I could still hear him. Like my pillow over my head, earplugs in, I could still hear this asshole walking down the hall and whistling as he went to the bathroom. So my friends and I were like, we've got to stop this man. He is our mortal enemy. We've got to do something. So the first idea we had was we would play an annoying sound, like to get back at him, and and maybe give him a taste of his own medicine. And so we started pulling up like the most annoying music we could think of. We'd play it at him, just like play it really loud in our dorm room when he was walking by. I think we ended up annoying our own neighbors more than we ended up annoying him. So it wasn't the greatest of plans, but it was what we came up with because we were in college and we were stupid. And so this kind of went on for a while. We would try things. It just wouldn't work. Until my one friend had the idea to play something at him while he was in the bathroom. You can just see the quality of ideas taking a nosedive here. It didn't start out good. It only gets worse. So we knew when he was going to the bathroom because he would whistle obscenely loudly as he would walk along. So one time he went into the bathroom and we were like, okay, time to enact Operation Play Music So Loud This Guy Realizes How Annoying He Is. And so we went into my other friend's room because he had this radio. He had this Bluetooth speaker set. And the door was locked. We had told him we were going to do this. And he was like, yeah, okay. Door was locked. And we were wondering, where is he? What's going on? We knocked, didn't get a response. And then my other friend, who had gone to this meeting of a local club, like a local college club that focused on computer security, said, well, okay, this club has been focusing mostly on computer security, but they also do some other security-related things too. And recently I attended a session on lock picking. So we're going to have to pick this guy's lock. So he got a safety pin, and we were in the middle of trying to pick the dorm room lock when our friend, who was not in his room, walked back. He was like, yeah, I was in the bathroom too. What are you doing at my door? And we had a kind of awkward explanation. Well, trying to force entry into your room. And by the time we all got back to the bathroom, the whistler guy had left. And that's the story of how we completely failed to get revenge on our enemy.
So in other words, if you're a whistler, don't be. Because it annoys everyone around you.
In the middle of the night.
I once had to have, back in my co-op living days, I once had to have a household intervention to stop one of our roommates from doing that, from whistling all the time. Everyone got together and we just said it was a normal house meeting, but it was really just an intervention for that one guy to get him to stop whistling. Cagney, you had a story.
I do have a story. So I think I mentioned I'm in Texas right now. We're actually on my wife's family's land. And it's not like a huge working ranch, but there are 3 horses, a donkey, and 8 cows. So these cows are kind of like the more maintenance heavy animals. There's 1 bull, 1 baby, and then what would that be? 6, I don't know, heifers. I'm not sure what the proper term is. I don't really mess much with the cows, except for this time. So because we're here and there aren't many other people, they wanted us to help take care of them. So I would fill up their water trough every day. And then they have these little feed pellets that they call cake here, just because it's kind of a treat. They get super pumped for it. So I work in digital marketing for a client that has a huge Mother's Day. So right before Mother's Day, I was like super stressed out, working crazy hours. And I was like, okay, I think feeding these like cows is gonna calm me down. They love it. And it's just kind of like, it's not nature, but I don't know, being around big animals was nice. It's like, I'll go do that. It'll chill me out. So me and my wife got in a ranch vehicle. They have this little Polaris thing. And we're driving around. It's a couple 100 acres, so we have to like find the cows and bring them back to the barn to feed them. So I was like, all right, this will be easy. And the ranch dog was following us. This dog's name is Dog. It just showed up out here at the ranch one day and has stayed for like 9 years. So she's like following along with us and then breaks off. So we're over on one end of the pasture, driving around looking for the cows. And then Dog's like way on the other side. I'm like, oh, she probably knows where the cows are. So drive this Polaris across the pasture, and we're looking out here where Dog is, no cows. So I get this jug of cake and I can like shake it. So I stand up on the back and I turn around, I start shaking it, and over this crest, just barreling full speed, all 8 cows just sprinting straight at us. And I had turned off the Polaris, we're parked, and they're charging us. And I was like, I can't take this. So I get in, turn the Polaris on, like whip it around back to head to the barn, and all the heifers take off away from us, like heading to the barn. But the bull, who is enormous, heads straight for us. And so I am flooring it. This bull is charging the back of our Polaris and is about a yard away from us when finally he veers off. But I'm like staring this guy in the eye, and I just see like heat flaring out of his nose like it's a cartoon. And I thought I was gonna die. I was already stressed out, so this wasn't helping. But finally he veered off. This cow, his neck is like 4 times my chest. Like I saw him just knocking us into this cactus and we were done for. But finally got them to the barn, got them their cake, and they calmed down. That's part 1 of my cow stories, so I'll save the rest for another day, but there are more.
I can see why they wanted you to help with the animals, because they sound like a handful.
Yeah. I'm kind of sweating thinking about that moment.
Who else had a story that was queued up? I've got a quick one. So a couple of the pet stories reminded me of one so when I lived in LA, I had my old dog, Eli, who was like this gentle giant. He was half Black Lab, half Great Dane, or maybe some combination of those 2 breeds. He was basically looked like a giant Black Lab. And he was just a super sweet, mellow dog. Both my dogs, I've been really lucky with mellow dogs. And both are really friendly. And this could happen to this guy as well, this guy who's like sleeping behind me there. Because they go up to everyone thinking that they're going to be best friends. They just assume that everyone's going to be their best friend. And Eli in particular loved cats. Like he was a way bigger cat fan than I am. Like I think cats are okay, but he loved them. We had a roommate who had a cat, and the cat was Eli's cat, not my roommate's cat. The cat followed Eli around. When she was a kitten, she would ride around on his giant paws. When he was sleeping, she would like tuck herself in under her leg, just her little head poking out. Well, I was over at my friend Jim Morrison's house, not from the Doors. He just has the same name. And Eli was in the backyard, and all of a sudden we heard this like great commotion back there. And I go back there, and poor Eli is like rubbing his face on the ground, and we can immediately smell he's met a skunk. And I know exactly what happened, because he probably was just like, "Ooh, kitty, hello." And the skunk was like, "Hell no," and just sprayed the shit out of him. And poor Eli was left stinking of skunk, especially in his face. So I Googled very quickly of what to do in this situation, because I'd heard tomato juice, but I then learned that vaginal douches were the way to go. So I drove to the store. It was like 2 a.m. and I bought like an econo size box of vaginal douches. And I'm pretty sure the cashier thought I was shooting a porno, because I was in LA. And why else would I need this huge box of vaginal douches at 2 a.m.? But she just looked at me strange and let me go. And then I gave him a bath and vaginal douches. And that's how I learned how to deal with skunks. Who else has a story? Anyone? All right. Well, Jenny, do you have a story? You're talking, but you're muted.
I have a quick one. Wait, can y'all hear me?
Yeah, go for it, Jenny.
Okay, cool. So my last name is Sanborn. And there's a jazz musician called David Sanborn who I honestly don't know much about. I think he plays like the saxophone maybe, and a lot of like rap and hip hop artists like sample his music and in their music. But my grandfather's name is David Sanborn. And so on more than one occasion, I'll meet someone and they say, "Oh, you're related to David Sanborn?" And each time without missing a beat, I say, "Yeah, he's my grandfather." And they like freak the fuck out. But I'm not lying technically. So that's
Sweet. Anyone else have a last minute story that they want to get in before we wrap our show?
I
Brandon?
have one if there's time.
Yeah, go for it, Jenny. Yeah.
Okay,
Good
and
time.
I'll probably go by Jennifer since we have a Ginny. So,
Great.
So my boyfriend and I liked backpacking, and we'd go, or like backpacking, we'd go every summer. And this year we had or not this year, but one year we had a really big one planned. And so we hiked up into the Sierras, way, way, way up. And basically a day and a half in, we're on a lake and it's raining. He's trapped me in a tent up in the Sierras, and he starts kneeling in the tent and he asks me to marry him. And me being me, I am a bit of a people pleaser, or I can be. I was like, "Oh yeah, of course, absolutely." We've been together for 3 years. I was like, "Yeah, absolutely, of course." But also me being me, I sometimes jump the gun a little bit. So an hour later, we were really happy. We were swimming in the lake. The rain had stopped. And I was like, I mean, I think I want to, but I always thought we'd live together first. And I mean, maybe we shouldn't. Maybe we should date other people. Or so needless to say, he wasn't very happy about this particular turn of events. So things went a little south. And so we're still trapped up on a mountain though. So the next day we had to walk down for we still had 2 days to get out. So we spent the next day just walking down. And he's like completely sullen and silent. And I'm like, how do I make this guy happy? I don't know. What did I do wrong? I don't understand. And we had dinner that night and we're really both kind of depressed. And usually when you're in the Sierras and you have dinner, you have to clean up your food really quick and you have to bear bag it really quickly. But we had dinner and we were tired and we just sort of left it all out, and all the pots were sitting out and we're sitting up against this log, and a bear comes into our campground and starts, eating the remaining food that we have. So I jumped up and I was screaming and I was going, "Bear, bear, 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 bear," and hitting all the pots and all the pans, and the bear leaves. And then I turned to my boyfriend and I said, "Yeah, I'll marry you." And we actually have a 17-year-old and a 13-year-old now. So it's been a little while, but that's it.
That's amazing. I love that actually did work out. That's so cool. Because I was pretty sure that was just an old boyfriend that you never saw again after that fateful trip. So I think we're going to wrap our show here, but we want to have a little cuddle time with our pets. So if you have a pet, everyone bring out your pet. Eli, Boomer, come here.
See if
I called him by my old dog's name by accident. There we go. So if you tuned in, thank you for watching. It was great to see you. Our fuzzy critters say goodbye to you as well. And please tune in on Sunday because we're going to have our first actual improv show where we're doing Ori in the Palace of Memory. The premise is that you, the audience, are Ori and you've been downloaded into a new body, and we're going to remind you of your old life with improvised scenes from your imagined life. So please tune in on Sunday at 6:30, same channel, twitch.tv/NoPants Improv. And we're also streaming on my Facebook and on the YouTube channel. So if you're watching there, thanks for watching. And we'll wish you all a good night. Happy hump day. Bye.